Hi, my name is Franco Gomez, and this is the first video of many I'm hoping that we're gonna end up making. Today, I'm actually bringing a pretty interesting topic. So I recently did a post on Instagram and I told you guys to leave some questions below. And today's theme is gonna be cover-ups. We're gonna talk about cover-ups. I do quite a bit of them. Let me explain first what's a cover-up. A cover-up is a tattoo that has a job to do. It's a tattoo that you get when you want to, pretty self-explanatory, cover something. However, you're not always covering a tattoo. You can use a cover-up to cover a scar. You can use a cover-up to cover hyperpigmentation. Not recommended, but you can. Or you can use a cover-up to cover an old tattoo that you no longer like, or maybe one like for it to be better, something like that. Okay, so the first question is, what are the limits to a cover-up and what elements can hinder the project? This is a very good question from George. What are the limits of a cover-up? Well, the limits of tattooing itself. Tattooing is an additive method, which means you can only add, you can only go darker. There's few exceptions, but as a rule of thumb, you can only add. So it is your job to design the piece around what's under. Let's say a piece that I recently posted, a cover-up, it's Jason from Friday the 13th, and under my client had like a really dark shape. I think it was an apple. So I designed the piece so the shadow in Jason's mask landed right on top of that apple. I could use advantage of that texture and to then actually make it look like there's nothing there, right? That final goal of like there's nothing there, like you cannot tell it's a cover-up, it's not always realistic, but it's always what we aim for, right? That all depends on how bad what you have under is. And let me see, what was the second part of that question? What elements can hinder a project? Well, if the tattoo you're covering up is like fresh, if it's something that's brand new, you got it 3 days ago, you regret it, that's not gonna happen. If the skin is damaged, if you have like blowouts, keloids, or like really rough scarring, and you try to get a piece that it's like a little too light or doesn't have enough texture or enough things to distract from that, then it's not gonna be as effective. Let's go to question 2. How long does the design take? Is it the same day a tattoo or is it done with anticipation? Well, this depends a lot on the artist. Many people like to design with time, but that all depends on many things. That depends on your skill set as an artist. That depends on how fast you can iterate and create. That depends on how fast you can draw. And that depends on, how comfortable your client is with that. Personally, I'm not like that. I like to do everything the same day of the appointment. I'm gonna be putting some images around here somewhere where I have some time lapses of how I do my work. I usually have the client come in person. That day we sit down, we talk. I explain them how cover-up works so they have realistic expectations as far as the results. I show them examples of other cover-ups that I've done so they can see what it looks like. Once that's established, we take a picture of the area that we're gonna be covering and we start working, we start designing. Once the client agrees, because I like my clients to be an active part of the design process. I don't like to do it at home and then I send it and revisions. I don't like that. Once we both agree, he's gonna be happy. He was there when I did it. He told me more or less what he wanted. And I was there to guide him because your clients are not artists. So you have to know that. We get to a happy design and we do it. And to this day, it's never happened that the client wasn't happy or satisfied. So thank God for that. Hope that clears it up. Question 3. What do I recommend when doing a cover-up? If you mean when getting a cover-up, well, make sure that the tattoo you have under is well healed and settled, not something fresh. Make sure the skin is taken care of, like that you moisturize before so it's not rough and dry, that you're eating well the day before your appointment, that you sleep well, all of those things. You don't want to faint. If it's a scar, it needs to be at least 2.5 years old for us to be able to work on it. I think I read somewhere that if it's a fresh scar or not that old, you have up to 60% increased risk of infection. That's not ideal. As far as doing it, if you're an artist, well, I recommend not being afraid of using black, because a cover-up, you're sculpting your piece out of what's there. So let's say you have a faded old tattoo and it has like a gray base, right? On that gray base, you're gonna start adding heavy blacks to get some of that gray push forward. And then you're gonna start sculpting also that out with like really opaque pasty colors like white and skin tones and things like that. Make sure you're not afraid of using heavy blacks and really burnt highlights, because at the end of the day, when it settles, you usually dials back down towards the middle. And make sure you use a proper design, and make sure you tell your clients how it works, because you cannot cover up a tribal with a portrait. I cannot do your daughter's portrait on a tribal. I'm sorry, you know, unless you want your daughter to look like she has a Maori tattoo on her face. That's not something that I would recommend. So that's that. Let's go to question 4. What's good to have in mind when doing a cover up? I think I answered that with the one before, so I'm gonna add a little bit more detail on it. As an artist, when you're doing one, it's good to have in mind that the immune response can be a little bit more severe on cover ups. What I mean is, it's not skin that's virgin. It's usually skin that's already scarred. It's already damaged, it's already pigmented by the previous tattoo. So you're not always gonna get that perfect result that you want. Keep in mind, most tattoos, if they are done properly, they don't need touch-ups. That's a really old school way of thinking. However, be ready, you know, it's a cover-up, things happen, it's weird. You didn't do the one under, so you don't know what ink they use, you don't know anything. You really don't know your client's habits, right? Say if you're a good artist and you're doing good work on clean skin, you will almost never need to touch it up if your client takes care of it, obviously. If you're doing cover-ups, you may have to do it a second pass about 50% of the time. So that's good to keep in mind. And do heavy texture. Contrast and texture are 100% your friend. Now, I'm gonna give you guys advice on how not to end up with a cover-up, because that's very important. First, don't go cheap, please. I'm not saying you have to spend $20,000 per session, but I'm saying your cheapest tattoos are gonna be your more expensive tattoos. Why? Because you end up paying them 3 ways. You pay them with double the pain, you pay them with double the time you have to wait and patience and all that, and then you have to pay for it twice, and cover-ups are usually pretty expensive. So that's not very bright. Second thing, you know, before you get something, plan it out. You don't need to have a perfect design, because that's our job. We help you get to your perfect design, most of us, I guess. Don't just get, I don't know, whatever. I mean, some people are okay with whatever tattoos, and I'm not saying tattoos need to have meaning, because at the end of the day, you just get whatever you like the most. But for sure, make sure it's something that's good. Like, always prioritize quality, because, for example, the meaning thing, meaning can get obsolete really quick, right? So let's say you get, I mean, how many times have we not seen someone who gets their significant other tattooed, and, well, that significant other stops signifying things real soon, right? Like that, you know, something happens, they move on, all of a sudden you're stuck. So you got something because of meaning, and now you're stuck, it means nothing to you. However, if you prioritize technical quality, like a good artist, someone who's gonna do a good job, even if the piece doesn't mean anything to you anymore, it's gonna look great. It's gonna look amazing. How many paintings do you not know what they mean, but you just look at them and you're in awe? You're like, wow, this is phenomenal art. Well, try to do that with your tattoos, and you will most likely never want to cover up. The second one will be, for sure, follow proper aftercare. I can do a 10 out of 10 tattoo that if my client doesn't take care of it properly, it's gonna look like a 5 out of 10. And I can do a 10 out of 10 tattoo, and if my client does everything perfect and by the book, in 5 years, 10 years, the tattoo is gonna look like I did it yesterday. So that's absolutely crucial. Don't get in the beach or a hot tub or whatever. Terrible ideas, all of those. Listen to your artist, that's important. I feel like I covered everything so far. Everything else is just variations of what I've just said. I'm sure I could probably go in depth and actually do an episode explaining exactly the dynamics of how cover-ups work, but for this kind of format, I feel like keeping it informative and somewhat light, it's pretty good. Regardless, let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this or that. If you wanted me to talk about something else, I don't know, painting, my design process, anything. Hope you guys like this video. Leave a comment below, like it, subscribe if you want more. This is the first one. I'm gonna try to do more of these. Please let me know what you wanna see more of and hear more of. I like your guidance, because I'm doing this for me and you. Peace out, God bless you, and may your next tattoo be your favorite one.